season, and much less a game, ends up going as well. So you've got both of those to go with it. Meanwhile, part of that as well is also the coaching staff. And I think when you're looking at Trey Ross, understanding the value of that experience and having that on staff, that's been a crucial thing for him as well.
I mean, just thought process, the mental thing, because I think as these kids do, coaches the same way, man. It's a roller coaster, and you can't ride the highs too high, you can't ride the lows too low. You got to stay steady the whole time. And hearing those voices of, hey man, we've been here, we lived it, we know what's going on. It gives you that the calmness to go to your team and kind of impart that same. Because everybody at first, you staring at deer in the headlights, looking like we got to go here. You know what I'm saying? So they're great. I'm truly blessed to have them on staff.
Trey Ross, Rustburg Red Devils head coach, he mentioned the word calm, and we've mentioned that a couple of times as well. The value of it being calm, but also a focus and intensity. I think those are kind of the three themes for the Rustburg Red Devils. Again, this does not mean they're going to win 10 games and lose 0 and reverse last year completely, but it's a path in the right direction. It looks like there's, it's hard to have said last year because it was year one, but it looks like there's a solidified game plan of how to get to where you want to be. I think there's still a lot of learning that's going to happen in this preseason, in the regular season, and it may be another year or two before Rustburg fully starts seeing the fruit of where they want to be, but that is good overall, and that's part of getting this thing rectified and resolved.
Just having that path is so important, Ed. I mean, you need that light at the end of the tunnel. You want to have a direction for where your team's going. And if these young guys can see that there's a place, a final destination where you're trying to go to, where you're trying to work to, it just increases the motivation to work harder and grind every day to do that. And if you do that, you build a really good program, and eventually you're going to start winning football games. When you start winning football games, it just encourages the guys to work even harder up to that point.
Meanwhile, if you're talking about grinding and getting to your final destination, really don't have to be a grind if you want to get to a Liberty Flames football game. Individual or season tickets are now 33.3% off the list price only at InsaneRadioDeals.com. They're already on special, and now you get to take an extra 33.3% off the list price, single game or season tickets for the Liberty Flames. Also, general admission with the food voucher and the skyboxes for the Lynchburg, got to put one in the curse jar. Sorry, almost said it out. The Hill City Howlers.
The Hill City Howlers.
That also at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Speaking of local sports, I promise I'll get the institution right to kick off the Fast Five at 5-ish.
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kind of ish. Let's start with number 5.
After 33 years at the helm of what used to be Lynchburg College, but they have also undergone a name change during the tenure of Dr. Todd Olson, they are now the U of L, much more morally upstanding than the University of Louisville, but that's another point. The University of Lynchburg's women's soccer coach, Dr. Todd Olson, will make this his 33rd and final season coming up in 2026. 2 things to note here. One, he's one of the coaches that's gotten them a national championship. Track and field obviously has obtained one with distance running program the last couple of years. Baseball has also gotten a national championship and sustained the success under Travis Beasley. This is where I had to get my usher on for a very brief moment. I do not know if future head coach Natalie Beasley is any relation. I do need to do some research on that. But it continues to trend at the University of Lynchburg. I just think is noteworthy. They have had a number of pillar coaches. Enza Steele in field hockey. Lucas Jones in baseball. Todd Olson now in soccer. Also in cross country and track and field. Jake Reed. A lot of those coaches leaving. And the ability to still backfill with assistant coaches and have pretty strong programs is a testament. I'd be remiss if you didn't mention that you have to wonder in some spots, probably more with the younger coaches, whether there's financial considerations. And it's not to over mention the University of Lynchburg and theirs, but you got 2 younger coaches who have stepped away when there's financial considerations, Lucas Jones and Jake Reed. But I think that's natural. A lot of times, one went to Notre Dame to be an assistant coach, but it's much more lucrative there. The other is going on to Northern Arizona, which is a very successful distance program, but also being in a spot where you can make more money. I think for older coaches, it may be even less about just that and more just, look, you've had a heck of a run. I mean, Enza Steele and Dr. Todd Olson, both over 3 decades. I think you can mention that finances are, I don't think that's totally out of the question, but I think also sometimes it's just You put a lot of time, effort, and energy in it. At some point, you're like, man, I've accomplished everything there is to accomplish. It's been a heck of a run. And as much as anything, it can be a testament when you can hand the reins off to assistant coaches, and that has by and large been the University of Lynchburg way, and by and large they've been able to continue success.
Yeah, I can't say I'm too familiar with the program as a whole, Ed, but from the sound of it, it sounds like they're losing what's kind of their Sir Alex Ferguson over there at University of Lynchburg. Really curious to see how the new coach takes the reins. I know when you've had a coach for that long, decades, matter of fact, it can be really hard for those first couple of years after the transition, but I've got confidence in the new coach, and I'm really excited to see what they have going forward.
So next up, speaking of college sports,
Number 4.
earlier today, this thing just keeps going every different direction, the Protect College Sports Act. Earlier, there was going to be a cap on the ability to expand beyond 19 teams apiece. You think the Big Ten with 18 had something to do with that? Hey, nobody can expand except we'll take one so we can add Notre Dame. Now, apparently that's changed because you've got Florida's Senator Ashley Moody. She's a Republican from Florida who has pushed back against that, meaning there should not be a cap on expansion. Wonder why? Florida State and Miami might want to get out of the ACC and go somewhere else or be part of another league. I have serious doubts that when Congress adjourns in the next 24-ish hours, that this thing is actually going to get across the finish line, unless it's happened in the last 15 minutes, and you can tell me it has since the show, JJ. You're shaking your head. I have serious doubts because, I mean, what else is new? Everybody's watching out for their best interest, which is how this has always gone all along.
Yeah, I feel like this spells trouble for the ACC. I think it's very likely that Miami and Florida State could end up leaving, especially if this unapproved cap goes through. I also saw there's a rule where they're trying to have the probationary period for transferring conferences every 5 years. Is this another topic of the Fast Five by chance?
Yeah, let's just go ahead and
Okay,
get into it.
Go ahead.
Number 3.
They wanted a probationary period where unless you were an independent, you have to wait 5 years to transfer from one conference to the next. And in that 5-year period, you would have to be an independent program. Only school that benefits from that successfully competed at a high level and had the financial resources as an independent is Notre Dame. I think you hit the nail on the head, though, JJ. It's either those schools leave the ACC and go to one of the others, there's a Super League, or, and I think we're already kind of seeing this, Miami poaching from Duke football as an example, but it splits between the have-nots and the ACC, the haves and the have-nots, the schools that are willing to and want to spend at a high level and the schools that aren't. And I think we're already seeing that, but they may want more of a firm split to get more money for themselves and not to have to basically bankroll your Boston colleges, your Wake Forest, your smaller programs.
Yeah, so now we have the newly filed amendment that they're trying to create a temporary 180-day grace period exemption, allowing certain Power 4 schools to bypass this probationary period. So if these teams do it, they wouldn't have to wait the 5 years if they do it within the 180-day grace period. And so there could be a chance where we see a lot of schools who've been thinking about moving, they leap at this 6-month period and end up leaving conference and won't have to wait the 5 years, just like they were hoping to make them do.
All right. Meanwhile, from it was going to happen as soon as we signed off on the fast lane in
Number 2.
Pro Bowl running back Jahmyr Gibbs inks a deal with the Detroit Lions. Wouldn't you want to know the figures of this one? 3 years, $75.5 million maximum, just $750,000 more than Bijan Robinson. I mean, look, God bless him. Get as much money as you can. 51.5 million guaranteed. I mean, this screams Gibbs and his agent just telling Detroit, hey, we're going to wait for Robinson to sign in, and we just want to go slightly above that for ego/posterity's sake.
Yeah, I got to feel like that's exactly what they do, and it's starting to feel like a daily segment almost at this point, Ed. We talk about the newest running back who just got their shiny new huge contract, and once again, when it comes to guys like Jahmyr Gibbs in the upper echelon, you're going to give them the money. Since he entered the NFL, he scored more total touchdowns than any other running back with 49. Second most rushing touchdowns with 39, 5.3 yards per carry is absolutely insane efficiency over a 3-year period. And he has the third most scrimmage yards in the whole NFL since that. I mean, this is a guy who's one of the most explosive players in the NFL. Now he's going to have an opportunity to play without David Montgomery, who is his tandem back, Sonic and Knuckles, as they refer to himself. And I think statistically, we could see him take a little bit more of a leap this year without David Montgomery, maybe get in the end zone a few more times even.
Am I worthy of rinse washing, repeating what I've said? These top running backs who are either A, versatile in terms of running and catching the ball, or B, they can explode and run with power. They have it all. they're more versatile than the top wide receivers getting paid. Gibbs is another example that even at $25 million a year, I'd rather be giving Gibbs $25 million a year than be giving Zay Flowers or Chris Olave $35 to $40 million a year.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I think Gibbs' impact on the game is more significant than a guy like Zay Flowers, especially. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a lot easier to get the ball in the hands of your running back than it is a wide receiver because you don't always have to throw it to them, Ed.
Number 1.
2 nuggets. Well, 2 sets of nuggets from the Virginia Tech Hokies. A hat tip to our colleagues at TechSideline.com and Andy Bitter for this one. 1. Offensive line. First team, left tackle Justin Terry, left guard Leif Ganem, Kyle Altuner at center, Brody Meadows at right guard, and Montavious Cunningham at right tackle. Logan Howland, Lucas Austin, Tommy Rickard, Benjamin Azukia, and Aiden Lynch from left to right were the backup second string linemen for those that really want to hear that information. Johnny Garrett, though, out with a long-term injury for Virginia Tech. I don't believe he's a standout offensive lineman, but the concern for me from Virginia Tech's standpoint is they just flat out need more bodies that can compete. They're throwing a lot of big athletic bodies who don't seem to know exactly where they want to go in a particular spot.
Yeah, at the end of the day, depth is a necessity for just about any team. And while with James Franklin arrivals, Virginia Tech did get a lot bigger size-wise on both sides of the ball, offensive and defensive line. You can't have bodies dropping this early because you never know when it's going to happen during the season. You need as many backups as you could possibly have. And even with this increased size, I'm really worried about the depth a little bit, especially with this injury, Ed.
Speaking of depth, defensive tackle Emmett Laws, who was mentioned to have a long-term injury in the spring, still has not participated. Andy Bitter saying, quote, or tweet, end quote, looks like he's a long ways away. That injury is also concerning. Jaquez White's a full participant with the sleeve on his left leg, but the quarterback room looks like it has depth. Again, they just don't have a lot of bodies in the trenches for Virginia Tech. Emmett Laws is the type of guy you would want, but if I'm the Hokies, I'm not holding my breath that he's going to be able to crack the rotation this year as a defensive tackle.
Yeah, the defensive line especially was lacking depth, I would say, even more than the offensive line. Of course, you have the All-ACC preseason guy, Kamari Copeland, who you expect to go out there and be one of the best players in the conference, I think you go as far to say. But once again, depth is such a necessity. What if Kamari Copeland, God forbid, does go down? Then Virginia Tech's going to be in a really precarious position.
No doubt, they absolutely are. When we return to the fast lane, we're not in a precarious position for Liberty Flames Insight because John Manson from AseaofRed.com will join us. Pedialyte. Is that the theme for the Liberty Flames? Might be. We'll ask him about that plus more when we return here in the fast lane.
When you walk into Haley's, you see the size and selection of a big box store. Over 19,000 square feet of appliances and mattresses. Leading appliances like KitchenAid, Whirlpool, Maytag, Genair, Speed Queen, GE, and Monogram. And mattresses like Sealy, Serta, and Tempur-Pedic. So what's the difference? A family, locally owned business. And a staff committed to servicing you over the entire life of the product. That means before, during, and well after your purchase. Visit Haley's today, just off Ward Road in Lynchburg. Haley's, quality that counts.
Summer is here, and there's no better time to find a place you'll love to call home. Whether you're looking for a cozy apartment, spacious townhome, or a quiet single-family home, Brownstone Properties has options designed for your lifestyle and budget. Enjoy the season with comfort, convenience, and peace of mind. Don't spend another summer searching. Let Brownstone Properties help you find your perfect home today. Visit brownstoneproperties.com or call 434-385-1025.
Brownstone Properties, where home is at the heart of everything we do.
Thinking about land? Think the Farmers Bank of Appomattox. Whether it's for building, farming, or investing, we're here to help you take that next step. Our land loans offer flexible options and local decision-making you can trust because we're based in Appomattox and have locations throughout Central Virginia. Let's turn your plans into possibilities. Visit us today on Timberlake Road or the Farmers Bank branch that's convenient for you and start your journey toward owning the land you've always wanted.
The number 3, one of the most important and powerful numbers on so many levels. And for your wallet, it's powerful at InstantRadioDeals.com. Enter the promo code FIRE at checkout for 33.3% off the list price of select items. Liberty Flames individual game tickets, Liberty Flames season tickets for the upcoming football season, and Hill City Howlers skyboxes and general admission with a $10 food voucher. All through the end of August. 33.3% off the list price of those items when you enter the promo code FIRE at checkout.
Hey, Lynchburg, Liberty football coach Jamie Chadwell here. Nobody matches the passion for sports on BTRN Sports Lynchburg, 93.3 FM. Come join the chat or give us a piece of your mind. JJ Hendrickson 27 and Fastlane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
They're technically not a sponsor. Pedialyte. I heard a lot of requests for that from Liberty Flames football players this past Monday. And it coincides with one of the things Jamie Chebel mentioned, which is stressing the players, making it challenging, in particular, doing that with the offensive linemen, maybe more importantly now with the injuries that apparently have struck that unit. But Jamie Chebel talked about conditioning being something that it seemed like they lacked last season and have really started to emphasize at the beginning of camp.
There's a lot of guys returning there that have seen some action in games, so that gives you some confidence, right? What that group has to continue to get better at is just the conditioning level that they're able to play with throughout a game. You know, if you go back and look, I think that line got way better towards the end of the season than they were at the beginning. At the beginning, we had a lot of issues with whether it was holding or false starts because they just weren't in the type of shape that they needed to be. And I think this offseason, you know, we had a change in our strength program, and that group has put themselves in a really good position to be able to, you know, hopefully what you want for an offensive line is to impose your will for 4 quarters, you know, and we weren't able to do that in a lot of ways. And I think that group's capable of it.
Feeling like you've got the freedom to coach harder. Some of that, I think, is also the fact that you could start that sooner and with only one transfer portal window. You don't have to worry about you coach them harder. They get upset. They might want to leave. Maybe they get an offer and leave anyway. Those things that all can pop up. And that's just part of the reality. So it all ties in now to our chat with John Manson from AseaofRed.com, who joins us here in the Fast Lane. John, always glad to be speaking with you. Starting with that, did you get the sense that Jamie Chebel and his staff, maybe they know it's a make or break season? Maybe they don't have to worry about the spring portal window. Maybe it's the health of Jamie Chebel, or is it a combination of all of that, where it seems like they have a different level of fire and intensity to get back on the track that they want for this program?
Yeah, I mean, that's something I've picked up on already here, you know, as Liberty's completed its first 3 days of training camp so far. And I've heard from others that have been at even more practice than I've been at that. And it's something I picked up on Wednesday when I was over there is, you know, it's kind of a different mindset, different mood, different aggression, you know, trying to think of the right, you know, adjectives to describe it. But, you know, from Coach Chadwell. And, you know, you don't really know exactly where that's coming from. Is it due to, you know, maybe feeling a little bit of heat on his seat? Is it due to just feeling better, getting back to his health, something that we talked about previously about how he struggled with that, you know, obviously all of last season and even some of 2024 as well, it sounds like. You know, maybe it's a combination of multiple things like that. And, you know, it's a lot of fun. And hearing you talk about the offensive line, that's a unit, you know, hearing Coach Chadwell talk about them on Wednesday and just kind of watching them a little bit. That's a unit that Liberty really needs to be hitting on all cylinders now. You know, you can't even wait to the start of the season. You know, week 1 at James Madison, obviously we know that might be the only game Liberty's an underdog in all season. Again, we'll see how the year plays out. But on paper going into the season, that's one that you would certainly think, you know, Liberty is an underdog, and the others you could make a case the Flames should be favored. So that's when you got to come out ready to play. And with a lot of unknowns at the other positions, especially on the offensive side of the ball, you know, really the rest of the offensive group, quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end, there's question marks all over the place. But offensive line, Liberty's returning 4 starters. They've got, you know, Aaron Finnemore's anchoring that group up front, the returning starter at center. I mean, he's a 3-year starter now. And you also got DJ Geth, who's going on to his 2nd year starting, a former, you know, Power 4 player at North Carolina. And you know, Joe Ingber is a guy that played at Illinois and started most of the last season after transferring in. And you know, Alex Birchmeier's a guy who's got reps first string right guard in the spring, and we saw that again on Wednesday. So he's a guy that you would expect to you know, be at least in that 2 deep, if not a starter. And yeah, there has been some injury concerns, so we'll just have to wait and see how that all plays out as we move forward. But the Flames need to ride behind that offensive line from the get-go to start the season, as the rest of the pieces on offense try to figure out where exactly they fit and how they fit on this team.
Bill Durkin is regarded as one of the better offensive line coaches, not just in the group of six ranks, but in all of college football. How much is on his shoulders in particular to get them ready for run blocking? Because it looks like the Flames have a pretty good selection of running backs to whom they could entrust the football early in the season.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Durkin's a guy that, he's the one assistant coach that I think Liberty would hate to lose. Obviously, you don't want to lose any of them, right? But Coach Durkin has proved throughout his time, going on 4 seasons now at Liberty, obviously all under Coach Chadwell, just what he's worth. I mean, you go back to that 2023 season, Caden Salter and Quentin Cooley and C.J. Daniels got all the highlights, but it was that offensive line that paved the way and made huge holes and wore down the opposing defensive fronts and allowed that offense to shine and excel and have a really good season. And 2024 is a similar type thing. And last year, as you just heard Coach Chadwell talk about, took them a little while to get going, but once they did, they were really firing on all cylinders. And again, this is a Liberty offense that under Coach Chadwell loves to run the ball. And I think we'll see that probably even more so this year, especially when you look at some of the issues at quarterback in turning the ball over last year. Like I said, at least to start the season, I expect the Flames to turn around and hand the ball off. And maybe we're talking too much about the quarterback and the quarterback battle. We need to be talking more about the running backs and who's going to lead the way there. And there's a dearth of guys that could do that. So I think you'll see a lot more. I mean, Liberty led the nation in rushing 2023 and 2024 was in the top, I think it was 5 when the things were finished. And last year was just under 200 yards per game rushing. So they like to get back over that mark this season. And it's going to be up to, a lot of that's going to be up to Coach Durkin and his offensive front.
You mentioned the quarterback position. And are we at a spot with John Manson from ACRadio.com? He's with us in the fast lane. Are we at a spot where maybe we need to rethink the Flames quarterback in terms of not who ends up winning the job, but what the coaching staff is emphasizing, comparing what we might think, which is who can throw the ball the best or the most perfect, and realizing that they seem to be prioritizing don't make mistakes, and then who might be a complementary piece in the run game, then the ability to throw the football. Not that that's diminished completely, but maybe on the priority board, it goes from 1 to 3 of those 3.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that you have to pay attention to. And it's something Coach Chadwell has said. Like every time he's been asked about the quarterback battle going back to the spring and throughout the summer and into the start of training camp is the most important thing is protecting the football. And we saw it Wednesday, only 5 periods of practice were open, but one of those periods was ball control for quarterbacks and running backs. And they were going through a line of guys on both sides using pads, hitting at the ball, trying to get it out. And Coach Chadwell was in there with them trying to use a pad to knock the ball out. And if either one of the backs, dropped the ball, including the quarterbacks, then they had to go to the side and drop and do some up down. So, he's talking a lot about, the value of possessing the ball, protecting the ball. And at least from what we've seen so far, he's, showing that as well in practice also. So, yeah, I definitely think that protecting the ball, and again, we're not seeing all of practice, but, the quarterbacks that stand out the most are going to be the ones that put the ball in their team's hands, keep the ball in their team's hands. And it's not always, especially in this offense, like we're talking about with the offensive line and the running game kind of leading the way. It's not always the guy that can make the flashy play. It's the guy that can make the right play, stay in front of the chains, don't turn the ball over. And we even heard Coach Chadwell say it on Wednesday in his first press conference of training camp is he'd rather punt the ball in first down than turn it over. So, he'd much rather, be kicking on fourth down than have to have a drive stall early with the turnover. So, yeah, protecting the ball is number 1, number 2, number 3 most important thing for the Flames quarterback battle. And also being able, you have to be a dual threat. That's something Coach Chadwell's always had from his running back or his quarterbacks. Even Vasco last year, a little bit more different dual threat type quarterback or more of a power type runner from the quarterback position. But even Grayson McCall, go back to his days at Coastal Carolina, he was a guy that could move the ball with his legs. Not something he went to first, but he could do it. And obviously Caden Salter, we saw what he did his first couple years at Liberty under Coach Chadwell. So you got to be able to move the ball with your legs as well too. Doesn't have to be your main option. You don't have to be 1,000-yard runner on the ground, but you have to be able to pick up those 3, 4, 5 yards when they present themselves.
John Manson from AseaRed.com. He's with us in the fast lane talking about the Liberty Flames. Camp is underway now. Heard from Jamie Chadwell on Wednesday. Now we're chatting with John a couple of days later on Friday, August the 7th, if you want to timestamp it for those that are going back and listening at Fastlane, Ed Lane on your podcast platforms, or the link at AseaRed.com, which is the site to get so much great Liberty Flames insight from your independent trusted source on the Liberty Flames. John, the quarterback competition, the thought process is, having a top 2 when you head to that initial scrimmage and whittling that down for number 1. And Jamie Chadwell went so far as to mention that if it goes to the JMU week, that's a bad thing because nobody has stood out. Does all of that give you an indication that this staff, even though we're in the early stages of camp, they seem to be pretty confident of the order in which the quarterbacks look, with the openness that if somebody wows them, they could change that?
Yeah, I mean, it's something I talked about in good detail on my update on our YouTube channel, AseaRed.com, as well as the Sea Red on YouTube, and everywhere you can follow us, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all those things. But something I went into detail on that update today, and it's kind of just, Liberty's got to, you find out who those top 2 are. But I think Coach Chadwell knows more than he's letting on to the media, and understandably so. That's how coaches always are, coach speak. So you had all of these quarterbacks. There's 5 quarterbacks in the room right now, and you had them all here for the spring. Obviously, Vasco was out due to injury, but he started basically all of last season. So the Flames know what they get out of Vasco. And then you had all 4 of the other guys going through spring practice, and then obviously through the summer workouts as well too, as you enter the start of training camp. So Coach Chadwell has an idea as to how this is going to shake out. He might already know who his starter is going to be, at least an idea of who that might be. He might not be saying, okay, it's done, sealed, delivered, but in the back of his mind, he's probably got a good idea of who he thinks is going to end up being that guy whenever he announces that to the team, whenever he announces that publicly, and as well as the top 2. I mean, he talked about naming the top 2 here in just over a week now, a week from Saturday, once you get through that first scrimmage. So it'll be interesting. And I think you can make a case for a number of the guys in the room, and kind of lay that out on AseaRed.com as well too, kind of my case for each of the 5. And, I think Deshaun Purdy, like we've said multiple times throughout the summer, is the leader in the clubhouse entering camp, and we'll see how things progress as camp continues. And you can't count Vasco out. Again, this is a guy who has multiple years of starting experience at the FBS level, a guy that has some P4 experience from his time at Kansas, and he's been in the system. Only 2 of the 5 quarterbacks in the room were in the system a year ago. So he has that. Obviously, he's coming off that injury, but I don't think he's a guy you can count out. And Jalen Henderson's a guy that may be a little bit of a dark horse that we're not really talking about very much. But I mean, he's a guy that started games at Texas A&M. He's obviously very mobile and able to make plays with his legs. We even saw some of that, what he did last year at West Virginia. So now, can he make the right plays in 11-11 drills, team drills throughout camp? And like we said, protect the ball more than the others to kind of, take a step forward. The other 2, Ethan Houck, Jakin Davis, young guys. You think they might be able to make a push for it, but they're probably more of the long shot than those 3 aforementioned.
John Manson is with AseaofRed.com. That's the site to visit. That way you can get the link to the YouTube page and check out their camp updates. Of course, they have all sorts of podcasts and content that comes out there, as well as on social media at Sea of Red. He's at JC Manson, by the way, if you want to hit him up on Twitter as well. John, last one for you. We'll pivot off of football for a moment. We do Faith Fridays. You're familiar with that. We're gracious you joined us before in the fast lane. But this is the time of year where it's so exciting to have football back. You are trying to balancing your faith-based stuff as well in the midst of football, deadlines, crazy schedules, and everything else. How do you, I'll probably mention you might give a hat tip to your lovely wife, Morgan, as well. But how do you guys make sure that you enjoy the heck out of the fall season, how awesome it is, but also keeping your faith component there, knowing that the schedule seems like it gets a little bit quirky?
Yeah, I mean, schedule's crazy, and we talked about it before, Ed. But two girls that are one's going to be in 8th grade and one in 11th grade, and they've already started volleyball practice and scrimmages and all that sort of stuff. So we're back at it full bore for the fall. So, but personally, for my faith it's something that's part of me each and every day. So it doesn't matter what I'm doing, how busy I am, or how relaxed I am. If I'm out sitting at the beach or something in the summer, it's a part of who I am. And, it's kind of second nature to me at this point in time, or first nature. I don't even know if that's the right terminology, but it's just something that comes natural, right? It is just my faith, my walk with Christ and all that. So, and obviously, Morgan's a big component in that as well too. And hopefully our kids will kind of follow in our footsteps and model, as we model that for them, they can, grow up and be similar type of, Christians and follow after the Lord as well too. So, but it's something that's always part of it. And it is something that you have to be careful of. Is I do think the enemy uses busyness a lot in this day and age, in our culture, to just kind of distract you and get you off target, and to kind of get you in a vulnerable spot. And so that's something you do have to be on guard for at all times. And busyness is one of his key weapons, in my opinion. And so you do have to be on guard for that. And but idle time can be the same way. I mean, whether that's in the fall or in the summer, when you have less time on your less things to check off the to-do list, you still have to be on guard. You have to be on guard at all times, right? So just some of my thoughts there. Trying to keep it brief, or we could go real long into that, but it's a good question and something we all have to be careful of each and every day.
But I think it's very well said. I mean, you keep Christ at the center of everything, and that way you can, it is what it is. The second nature part is phenomenal, because then it's just there and you're aware of it all the time. So it just becomes a habit, a good habit, but a habit to be involved in your faith all the time, so that even when it gets busy, you don't lose sight of the big picture. John Manson of CFRed.com is with us in the Fast Lane. John, thank you for your chat, all the information on the Flames. Another Faith Fridays question. We have a new sponsor, by the way, for that, our friends at Impact Church. We'll keep it locked to a CFRed.com for all the insight and the videos on YouTube as well.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on, Ed. Talk to you soon. Have a good weekend.
Indeed, you as well. John Manson from CFRed.com with us in the Fast Lane, and we are excited that our Faith Friday segments now, questions, full segments, however it unfolds, is presented by our friends at Impact Church on 811 in Forest. Wherever you are in shopping for your church home, they want that to be your last stop. Impact Church, think highly enough of them. I know I go to a different church, but if you're unchurched or you're looking for a new one, they firmly preach on the word. It's fantastic. And yes, we have a little bit of bias because one of their pastors, the coach, Rick Kennedy, is our color analyst on Jefferson Forest Cavalier football. But we're excited to be partnering up with them as well. When we return, we'll ask that same question of Bob Albus. He's listening. So we look forward to that. Plus, Rustburg Red Devils, some high school sports talk on Seminole District Media Days. All that when we return here in the Fast Lane.
Mark Dalton here with Terry Volkswagen. Get ready to fall head over heels for the perfect VW SUV. One size doesn't fit all, though, and that's why Volkswagen has an SUV for everyone. From the compact and affordable Volkswagen Taos to the tech-packed Tiguan and the spacious Volkswagen Atlas. No matter which one fits your lifestyle, you'll love the comfort, performance, and safety. Stop by Terry Volkswagen on Forest Road in Lynchburg, or check us out online at terryvw.com. Terry Volkswagen. You'll love our cars.
Lunchtime just got an upgrade. Stop by Makadu for our $8.95 weekday special and grab a legendary sandwich at an unbeatable price. Choose from your favorite classics to Coney Island, Betty Bob, Ragtime, or Stogie. Classic sandwiches packed with savory meats and flavors in between fresh bread. Make it a meal by pairing your sandwich with a sidekick, a warm cup of soup, or crispy chips. Great food, cozy vibes, and the best deal in town.
It's time to share great food and fun. Just to be there, the only one. Just to be there at Marketers.
We'll see you at the Doos.
Almost half the vehicles on the road have visible body damage. Those cars look ugly, embarrassing, and even unprofessional. If that's your car, why live with it? Get Mako. At Mako of Lynchburg, they'll work with your insurance company or coordinate out of pocket, because living with damage to your car is annoying every day. Don't live with the uh-oh. Get Mako. Mako of Lynchburg on Kemper Street.
Some places play football. Virginia Tech lives it. In Blacksburg, maroon and orange combine to belt an anthem heard across the mountains.
Fireworks light up the evening sky in Blacksburg.
And on warm autumn nights, the earth will shake beneath your feet.
It's a miracle in Blacksburg. Hiron did it, Mikey. Hiron did it.
One stadium, one tradition, one unforgettable experience. Virginia Tech football tickets are on sale now. Visit HokieSports.com. We'll see y'all in the fall.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at JJ Hendrickson 27 and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
I really want to know how sometimes our guests can hear us when we do our streams, and sometimes it's like rolling the dice. Not that we are advocating that behavior, but we are using it as a metaphor, an analogy here in the Fast Lane. So we're going to try it with Bob Alvis of the Sports Buffet podcast. Bob, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Hallelujah. Praise Jesus. And we
Faith
don't
Friday,
say
and
that.
you're using hallelujah, praise Jesus. I love it.
And we're not just saying that because it's the Faith Friday. We're not just saying that because we now have our friends at Impact Church in Forest on Route 811 who are partners of ours with our Faith Friday segments. We are also saying that just because it is one thing we can do to exhale. And now, with our friend Bob Alvis of the Sports Buffet podcast. Bob, we will actually start off on this. We asked John Manson about it. We'll ask you as well, since we are doing Faith Friday segments and you have been open about your Christian faith in greater detail in prior segments. Football season's here. Busyness can often be a reality. How do you balance your Christian faith and keeping that in the everyday life with a lot of fun, but a lot of things that are going on as well?
I think John hit the nail on the head that busyness is a weapon that the enemy uses quite often. I am really great friends with Dane Washburn, who is the defensive coordinator at Heritage. Paul Redgate is the athletic director at LCA. Those are just two people that I'm really good friends with that I know I can check out deeper stuff other than the 4-3 or how many shots did, so-and-so make. I can check out my, what's going on in my life with them. And those are just two of many people that I personally know, but I think it's really revolves in having a circle around you that you can check people out with anytime. And when people say anytime, that you almost wonder, do they really mean like 3 a.m.? If you are stranded on the side of the road at 3 a.m., give me a call because I don't want you, laying down, falling asleep, something like that. So I think even to a degree, God can use those people in your life, even if it's not a quote unquote Faith Friday issue. It is kind of.
That's a great point. Surrounding yourself with the right people. I have an analogy that kind of runs counter to that, and maybe personal experience factors in, but there's also being real with your faith that you're not always perfect.
Sure.
You hang around the dumpster long enough, you can come out smelling like trash. Now, if you hang around other people, it doesn't mean it's perfect because nobody is 100% perfect without everybody has their own stenches of sin. That's the reality of the world and life. But being around people that are genuine and want the best for you and vice versa is a crucial component to that.
Yeah, if you hang around Bob Alvis, you might want to start hanging around other people. But I hung around a lot of great people at Seminole District Media Day.
I know. You did. I did. It was a very good time. First of all, big picture. I tip my cap to Brad Bradley. Maybe other schools have done it before, but he has brought this into the consciousness in the area. Other districts, the Dogwood has done it. We've seen it over in the Roanoke and in the South Side areas also. How impressed are you with the fact that this thing looks like it's a pretty well-run machine? And the last couple of years, it's given all of us kind of a launch point to start previewing high school football.
Yeah, not only that he can organize, it's hard enough to get 3 people together, much less 8 people together who are running practices, who are kind of, in the busyness of getting a team ready for game 1 because you don't want to fall 0-1. So kudos. And by the way, if there's any coach that won media day in terms of winning with the media, Brad Bradley is going to be that guy that wins the media more often than not by his, I think he could sell ice to Eskimos.
I would say there's some truth to that. His ability to connect.
Yep.
And we'll get into Heritage later, so I don't want to delve too much into that. But there are a couple of bigger takeaways that came out of Seminole District Football Media Day. Some of them weren't even big storylines. One of them is the relocation of the Class 3, the 3A, which is most of the Seminole District outside of Glass, JF, and Liberty and Amherst, the other schools. The 3A schools, their state title game, and the 4A schools. So pretty much everyone in the Seminole District except Liberty would join, if Liberty made it, to Salem. Because Salem is now going to be the site for the VHSL Class 3 and Class 4 playoffs. It's the Friday, not the Saturday of championship weekend. Bob Alvis, big picture assessment of this particular move.
Not a big deal.
How
I
so?
mean, I just don't think it's a big deal because, you know, I know you said we're going to get into Heritage later, but I don't think any coach cares where we play it. I think coaches are creature of habits to where they enjoy the Friday night thing. I think once you get into Saturday, it's a little bit of a different beast. And, you know, the only thing that might be taken away is everybody's going to be going on the road unless Salem's in it. But, I mean, I don't think going on the road is as big of a deal because teams do that throughout the season. So I don't think it's a great big deal, truthfully. And I like the fact that it would be on Friday night for the 3A and 4As, and I'm sure most of them would too.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a Friday night element that's kind of cool about that. The one point I would add is, Liberty's a great host, but it just feels cavernous at Williams Stadium, which is a college venue, and there are just naturally going to be a lot of empty seats. I've been to 1A playoff games and 2A games over in Salem, and it just has more of an intimate feel, which I like.
Right.
A high school environment where it feels packed, it feels big, it feels intense. Am I off base, or is there some validity to that as well?
There's some validity in that. I mean, I think once you get deeper into the season, and Chatham's Matt Allen said this at Dogwood Media Day, teams will travel to, you know, their fans will travel to watch their teams play in a state final game. So I don't think it's as massive of a deal on that point. Have you ever done a game at Liberty for JF when it's a regular game?
Yeah, they played LCA
horrible.
at Liberty.
It's horrible because, I mean,
it felt dead. The atmosphere felt stale.
Well, not only that, but you're like 20 floors up. I mean, it does feel more full. And I think, you correct me if I'm wrong, your broadcast is going to be better if you've got people nearer you. Maybe not blocking your view, obviously, but if you just have kind of a crowd around, Ed gets more pumped up. Bob gets more pumped up. Everybody gets more pumped up. But when you're, you know, 100 miles away from the nearest person, it can be difficult. So, yeah, I think this is a good move. But I mean, is it backbreaking and crunching? I wouldn't say that, but I think it's a good move.
Bob Alvis, the Sports with A podcast, with us here in the Fast Lane. Bob, the other development, and we'll get to Rustburg in a moment. We're not going to preview every team. We're doing that over time. Rustburg's the one we've already discussed in the Fast Lane, so that's the one that we'll ask Bob about. The rest of them will wait for another chat on Seminole District football. But we have touched on the reclassification a little bit, not as much as we should. There's the proposal out there where essentially the only school that would be in the Class 4 right now would be JF. They'd stay there. Everybody else would shuffle around in their classification. Give us an overview on whether you like this.
You know, I mean, keep in mind, everybody is staying put for this coming season. So it would not affect anything for football, volleyball, basketball, baseball for this season. It would affect it more for next school year. So if your kid's a senior playing sports, well, you shouldn't care about this because it's going to be, that kid will be in college by the time this starts. I mean, I'll have to see what comes out of the appeal because, I mean, you know, people like LCA, they appealed to play up to 4 in 3A, and they've been able to play in 3A. So until the finals come out, I mean, it's, to me, everything can be a talking point in terms of what are people like us going to talk about? What are people going to yell about on, you know, Stephen A. and stuff like that? I don't know if this is a topic yet to totally dive into, but I mean, you know, you've got to be aware when you have population growth, stuff can happen. When you have population decreases, stuff can happen. When your school zone is changed, stuff can happen. So I think we all need to be aware at all points.
We should. It's the reality. These things get shuffled around based on populations, and we're in more of a transient world and society than we've ever been. Bob
I
Alvis,
liked it so much better when we could just play the games, though.
I mean, ultimately, that's the fun. And we will get there because the Rustburg Red Devils are the first team we're discussing. We'll start stacking them up after this with Bob Alvis of the Sports with A podcast. But Rustburg is the first one that we dropped. It was earlier today on Fastlane, Ed Lane, our socials. Bob Alvis at the Sports with A podcast on YouTube and his socials as well has got content up too. but ours is on Rustburg, so that's where we'll start. How impressed were you? How amazed were you? What were your thoughts on the tone of Coach Trey Ross as well as Cameron Klein, Eric Pennell, and Reed Doughty in terms of they could have run from the 2025 season and maybe gotten defensive about it. Instead, it seems like they're leaning into the disappointment of it and have leaned into that as a motivator to get better.
It is what it is. I mean, you can't run away from so much because facts are facts, and it's there in black and white, unfortunately. I think obviously confidence grows with a win. First shot will be at Lord Bottot, then they've got Appomattox, and they've got the bye. I mean, I think for Rustburg, it ultimately comes down to, can you keep people healthy? If numbers are not in your favor, you've got to keep people healthy. And I think that Trey Ross hit the nail on the head too, but by saying, my first year, I learned about everything. And I think now, if you put your players into, let Ed Lane be Ed Lane, let Bob Alvis be Bob Alvis, let Cameron Klein be Cameron Klein, Reed Doughty's Reed Doughty, Eric Pennell's Eric Pennell. Let those guys be themselves and see what happens rather than saying, hey, you've got to be, Patrick Mahomes. There's one Patrick Mahomes. Hard to duplicate him.
Really is, no doubt. It's also hard to duplicate Bob Alvis and his great insight and expertise. Bob, the last one, and we'll wrap it up on the Rustburg Red Devils. I was impressed. I don't necessarily believe it's going to translate or guarantee to translate to wins, but is there a level of comfort that it seems like Trey Ross has in his candor in admitting that, he had to learn from last season about how to get the right level of intensity for his team this offseason? It seems like he's at it, but more importantly, it seems like the players and leaders have had it as you asked them about leadership, and they seem to have very good answers on that.
Yeah, I think that Trey Ross has a good thing and a bad thing going for him. The bad thing is he's not from here. The good thing is he's young. Younger.
Yep, Bob Alvis, Sports Buffet Podcast. We had a drop off here in just a moment. We'll get back with him in a moment because we want to wrap that question up here in the Fast Lane on W227BG Timberlake, WVG Amos for WMNA, Gretna, Danville, Southside. Bob, are you back with us? All right, technical challenge of Bob Alvis of the Sports Buffet Podcast, trying to get that ironed out so that we can hear his insight and analysis on Trey Ross with the Rustburg Red Devils. He was mentioning that he's not from here, but he's also young and energetic, and the pros and cons of his particular situation. Bob, can you hear us right now? All right, Bob Alvis of the Sports Buffet Podcast with us here in the Fast Lane, and we'll see if we can disconnect and rejoin us. If not, we'll be good to go today. We can ask a little bit more about that, but also some of the other teams when we connect with Bob over the next week here in the Fast Lane. But I think it's a great point about, it is a challenge not being from around here. You really have to get acclimated to the intensity of the Seminole District. If you're Trey Ross at Rustburg, that is an adjustment. Leaning on the coaches like Mike Sharness and Chris Watts, who have been there before and understand that and understand how to bring all that about. Bob Alvis of the Sports Buffet Podcast. Bob, can you hear us now?
I can. I adjusted. I pivoted.
Hey, it happens. Technical challenges. We work through that. I laugh. We're doing Faith Fridays. Every time we do Faith Fridays, by the way, there is a technical hurdle. This is the enemy trying to tempt me to give in, and I am not going to let it. So I lean on my Christian faith and prayer to get through this. Not always perfect, but we're getting better because of his grace and his working on my heart. Bob, we will pivot off of that, though. Trey Ross, you mentioned the pro of being young, but the challenge of not being from this area. Elaborate on that a little bit more in terms of understanding the Seminole District and the challenge of maybe having a firm grasp now after a year of seeing it of what Trey Ross is really up against and getting Rustburg prepared for it.
I think the technical difficulties were on my end, so I'll take responsibility. I'm not Adam Schefter to where I have two phones. I should.
Yeah, it's all good.
I think Trey Ross learned a lot in the first year. I think he learned his personnel, and probably his personnel learned him too. And not only his personnel, but his coaching staff. Mike Sharness and Chris Watts essentially came with the building in a weird way, if that makes sense. It's not like they moved from North Carolina with Ross. So I think Trey Ross is going to have learned his kids more. They're going to have learned him more. But the ultimate thing is, can everybody learn the system more and get a win? Because I think one win can do wonders for you, and it can give you confidence that nothing else can give you.
That's a great point, and it's a phenomenal way to wrap it up from Bob Alvis of the Sports Buffet Podcast, joining us today here in the Fast Lane. Bob, we are grateful for your time. We appreciate you going around the gamut of topics with us today. We will chat again, and the next time we do, we'll have some more Seminole District football teams to discuss.
Anytime.
Indeed. Bob Alvis of the Sports Bay Podcast to wrap things up today. Now on to Freddie and Harry joining in progress.
And all kind of things.